The princess has taken a fancy to my husband, and my son is also clamoring for his dad to divorce me. If she doesn't cry or make a fuss, I'll go ask the princess to grant her the title of noble concubine. If she doesn't know what is good for her, then I'll have no choice but to painfully give her up. At Triumphant Tower, Zhou Chuan was surrounded by a group of officials' sons, unable to hide the smugness in his eyes. Everyone around him was praising him for being loyal and righteous. A newly appointed top scholar who also won the princess's favor. Won must give him some face. As he wished, I didn't cry or make a fuss, and calmly accepted the divorce papers. I only made one request. Tomorrow is my birthday. I've reserved tables at Triumphant Tower just to bring things to a close. I hope you can come and spend one last birthday with me. I spoke earnestly, and Zhou Chuan agreed. What he didn't know was that I didn't just invite him. I also invited his colleagues, teachers, superiors, and their wives. If there is any recent news in the capital, it is none other than Princess Jingshu selecting a husband at the Phoenix Terrace. And she chose my husband, Zhou Chuan. These past few days, many people have mentioned this matter in front of me. Only Zhou Chuan acted as if it had nothing to do with him, deliberately making time every day to accompany me in tending flowers and having meals. I know he is waiting for me to lose my mind. I pretended not to know about this matter and continued to care for him attentively every day. But things must eventually be resolved. I could afford to wait, but he started getting anxious and hastily went out to ruin my reputation. If she doesn't cry or make a fuss, I'll naturally go ask the princess to grant her the title of noble concubine. But if she doesn't know what is good for her, then I'll have no choice but to painfully let her go. This world is unfair to women. Men can have 3 wives and 4 concubines, but women can't show the slightest dissatisfaction. Otherwise, at best they'll be labeled a jealous wife. At worst they'll be cast out or drowned. I sat in the private room next door, quietly drinking tea. Madam, the master, the old butler couldn't bear it and wanted to comfort me, but didn't know how to start. I put down my teacup. Let's go back. When I brought the clothes I'd sewn with my own hands to give to Zhou Jingzi, he threw them on the ground. Mother, I said, I don't want to study with Master Zhao anymore. Are you even listening to me? The Master Zhao he mentioned was a Confucian master. I'd personally climbed 10 miles of mountain roads to hire for him. I used to always want to give him the best of everything in the world. So I hired famous teachers for him, selected children from good families to study with him, sewed clothes for him with my own hands, and stayed by his side fully dressed when he was sick. He used to affectionately hold my arm and call me mother. I don't know when he started to find me annoying. He despised my lowly birth, saying I made him lose face in front of his classmates. He hated that I often restricted him, and wouldn't let him live a life of debauchery. He thought my thinking was outdated. He is the son of the Vice Minister of Revenue after all. Does he still need to rely on studying to get ahead? I picked up the clothes, shook off the dust, folded them neatly, and put them in the wardrobe. If you don't want to study then, don't tomorrow. I'll send someone to see Teacher Zhao off. Zhou Jingzi looked at me with a puzzled frown. He didn't expect me to agree so quickly, and was momentarily speechless. After a long while, he put on an impatient expression again. I hate you. I don't want you as my mother anymore. The princess is my mother. Okay, fellow moms. Take a deep breath, because this part hurts. We sacrifice everything. Our bodies, our sleep, our savings, literally selling wontons purely for his education. And this kid Zhou Jingzi trades her in because the new stepmom has more money and lets him slack off. He is the definition of a fair weather son. It is heartbreaking, but it is also the moment Wan Chuning's shackles truly fell off sometimes. The toxic person in your life isn't just your partner. Sometimes, it is a family member you poured your soul into. When he threw those clothes she hand-sewed onto the floor, he wasn't just rejecting a shirt, he was freeing her from a lifetime of thankless labor. It hurts like hell, but it cleared the space for her real daughter, Cao Cao, to enter her life. Blood makes you related, loyalty makes you family. As if completing some kind of task, he finally managed to say those words. With a crack, the teacup fell to the ground. At the same time, Zhou Chuan appeared at the doorway. What is the meaning of this? Zhou Chuan then accused me of not managing the household, failing to properly discipline the child, being unable to help his official career, and only knowing how to cause trouble. Then he threw the divorce papers in front of me. If you don't want to stay in this family, then go back to your hometown. I laughed inwardly and calmly took the divorce papers. I made only one request. Tomorrow is my birthday. I've reserved a banquet at Spring Breeze restaurant. Let's consider it closure. I hope you can come and spend one last birthday with me. At the banquet, in front of his colleagues, teachers, superiors, and their wives, I cried bitterly and recounted the story of him and me with embellishments, finally expressing that for his happiness, I was willing to give up everything. Watching his face turn red, then green, I pulled out my handkerchief to cover my face and weep. People climb to higher places. Water flows to lower ground. If you want to climb up to a higher branch, I don't blame you. Thank you for giving me this divorce agreement. I spoke until it was truly heartbreaking. Then, dressed in plain white clothes and carrying a small bundle, I left the banquet. Behind me were the faint sounds of women sobbing, sighs of disappointment over failed expectations, and Zhou Chuan's anxious explanations. But none of this had anything to do with me anymore. When I reached the city gate, 2 young palace maids caught up with me. The one in front spoke arrogantly. "Our princess says, 'Thank you, madam, for your gracious gesture. These 77 taels of silver are a token of gratitude.'" I took the silver and weighed it in my hand. It was exact, if not more. To say that Princess Jingshu was innocent would be pure nonsense. Everyone in the capital knew that Zhou Chuan had a nickname, the 77 taels champion scholar. Back then, his family was poor, and it was the 77 taels of silver I saved from selling wontons that became his travel money, allowing him to make it to that year's imperial examination. After he became the top scholar, someone with ulterior motives used this story, originally intending to smear him, but it inadvertently reached the ears of the current Prime Minister Han Song. Han Song praised him for his perseverance and loyalty, took him as a disciple, and recommended him for a position in the Ministry of Revenue, but he hated the title, the 77 taels champion scholar. He didn't want others to know he succeeded because of a woman. After arriving in the capital, he wouldn't let me cook wontons for a long time. Zhou Jingzi saw his dad didn't like eating it, so he didn't like eating it either. The other day when he was sick, I specially cooked a bowl of hot wontons, but he threw them all on the floor. My dad doesn't eat them, so I won't eat them either. My dad says, eating wontons is for losers. Zhou Chuan and I just got divorced, and Princess Jingshu sent 77 taels of silver, clearly trying to show off. But I didn't refuse. I am going back to my hometown. I need the silver. I tucked the silver into my chest and waved at the palace maid, thanked the princess for me. After speaking, I turned around and got back in the carriage, leaving the 2 of them completely dumbfounded. Outside Wanglu Pavilion, 1 li away from the city gate, a luxurious carriage was parked. I got off the carriage and bowed to the person in the pavilion. "This commoner woman greets the grand princess." The woman dressed in fine clothes had her back to me. "This palace indeed didn't misjudge you. You are someone who absolutely refuses to take a loss." My tone was flat, wanting to climb up the social ladder while also using me to preserve his reputation. How can he get all the good things in the world? She personally poured me a cup of wine. "The man you could let go. But can you let go of your son too?" I lowered my eyelids. "He already has a new mother. From now on, he is the princess's son. I raised Zhou Jingzi for 5 years, lived in fear for 5 years, loved him for 5 years. Just because Princess Jingshu took him to one banquet, he didn't want me anymore. Being a princess's son surrounded by people fawning over you, sucking up to you, coddling you, being a commoner's son. There is no such treatment." The eldest princess snorted coldly. "What princess? Nothing but a fake," I chuckled. "Minghua, you are someone who is going to do great things. How can you still be so childish?" After bidding farewell to eldest Princess Minghua, I continued on my journey home. It was currently summer season. The weather was hot and stuffy, and miasma was severe in many southern regions. I practiced medicine and distributed remedies along the way, saving quite a few people. As I approached Lingyan village, a little girl rushed in front of me. "Bodhisattva sister, please save my mother." The little girl was sobbing. I quickly helped her up and followed her into the village. What met my eyes was a scene of dilapidation. Lingyan village backed onto a great mountain, far from the county seat. The entire village had only a dozen or so households, but now it had been burned down to just broken walls and ruins. By a large rock at the village entrance leaned a woman, her face haggard and withered. I took her pulse, looked up to meet the little girl's hopeful gaze, but could only tell the truth. Her lamp has run out of oil. There is nothing I can do either. I thought she would cry and make a fuss, but she just stared blankly at the woman. Then after a long while bowed to me, and took the woman back into the village. Early the next morning, when I lifted the carriage curtain, the little girl was already waiting by the carriage. Seeing me come out, she unnaturally rubbed her little hands that were covered in dirt. "Can I go with you?" Probably afraid I'd refuse, she quickly added. "I can wash clothes and cook. I can chop firewood too. I can do anything." I took her hand and pulled out my handkerchief to gently wipe it. "I am from a humble background, no money, no power. Are you willing to come with me?" The little girl's eyes brimmed with tears. "I am willing. Good, from now on, I'll be your mother." After a bath and a change of clothes, what appeared before me was a delicate little doll carved from powder and jade. I gave her a new name, Chow Chow, Wan Chow Chow, taking my surname. After 5 days of bumpy travel, we finally returned to my hometown. I am also a descendant of a prestigious family, but unfortunately by my father's generation, the Wan family had declined to the point of only having a 2-courtyard ancestral house left. But my father still maintained the integrity of a distinguished scholar, and whenever he got a bit of money he'd think about supporting impoverished scholars from the village. Zhou Chuan was the most promising among them, always ranking at the top in every exam. Father would often invite him to our home, and gradually he and I developed feelings for each other. On our wedding day he said in front of my father that he'd treat me well for life, and if he ever became successful, he'd definitely pay to repair the Wan family's ancestral house. Looking at it now, he'd long forgotten that promise. Cao Cao and I spent about 10 days clearing the weeds and repairing the house. I then solemnly placed my parents' memorial tablets in the main room and set up the wonton stall again. News of my return to the village spread like wildfire. "Is Madame Zhou back to pay respects to the ancestors? How many days are you planning to stay, and when will you return?" "I am not going back. I'll be living here permanently." "Then Lord Zhou?" the village chief asked cautiously. "Dead." My face was calm, while the village chief was flustered. "The young master, he also dead." "They're all dead. In my heart, I used to love them very much." To scrape together money for Zhou Chuan, I sold wontons from dawn till dusk. At that time, I was already pregnant with Zhou Jingzi to lighten my burden. My parents nearly sold our ancestral home. Zhou Chuan only brought me back to the capital 2 years after he passed the imperial examination and became the top scholar. During those 2 years, I took care of my parents alone, took care of Zhou Jingzi alone, and he didn't even come back when my parents passed away. Back then, Zhou Jingzi still relied on me. He loved eating the wontons I made most, loved wearing the clothes I sewed by hand, and loved listening to me read to him. When I cooked wontons, he would sit quietly beside me, keeping me company. But later, after entering the capital, he could tell that my wontons couldn't compare to the delicacies of the princess's manor, and my handmade clothes couldn't compare to those luxurious robes sewn with gold thread and adorned with jade plaques and gold ornaments. At first it was impatience. Later it became disgust. He hated that I was restricting him everywhere, hated that I only made him study, hated that I made him take care of his health. His father told him that a princess's son and a commoner's son were worlds apart, so he said, "I don't want you as my mother. I want the princess as my mother. You are not even worth a toe of the princess. Mother, mother." I came back to my senses. Zhao Zhao placed a bowl of plain congee on the table in front of me, reaching up to caress my face. "Why is mother crying?" As she spoke, she reached out her little hand to wipe away my tears. Zhao Zhao is a very sensible little girl. She accompanies me to set up the stall early in the morning, cooks congee for me when I am sick, and firmly stands by my side when others bully me. Nonce, when I was bullied by a scoundrel, she blocked in front of me holding a little wooden stick. Sometimes I think spending this lifetime alone is pretty good, but sometimes I also think having someone like this by my side for this lifetime is pretty good too. This dynasty preserves the customs of the previous dynasty and respects scholars, so the village chief treats me fairly well. Moreover, everyone knows I supported my husband to become the top scholar by selling wontons, so my wonton stall business is pretty good. Besides selling wontons, I also frequently visit the countryside, using my medical skills to save quite a few people. Gradually, many like-minded people gathered around me. We opened a clinic together, treating poor common folk for free, and charging the rich and powerful more. Zhao Kao really loved reading. Aside from helping me out, she spent all her time reading. She dug out all of Father's book collection from the ancestral home. I seemed to see my own shadow in her. At 3 years old, Father began my education, and I started learning to read and write. Father often said I was the most promising one in the Wan family's generation, better than all my male cousins. But after I married Zhou Chuan, he wouldn't let me read anymore. A woman's virtue lies in her lack of talent. Why work so hard in the future? My son and I will earn you an imperial title. Just focus on managing the household. I took out half my savings along with the 77 taels of silver Princess Jingshu gave me back then, and donated a girls' school. It both enrolled girls who wanted to study and took in homeless orphans. But I miscalculated. I didn't expect there'd be so many places that needed money. Just as I was worrying about getting more funds, the village chief said someone had donated a large sum, enough to cover the school's expenses for 2 years. Of course I was delighted, but when I tried to ask about the donor, the village chief said he didn't know either. He heard they came from the capital. Travel-worn dropped off the money and left. The capital. Over these 5 years, news kept coming from the capital. The crown prince fell from favor, and the eldest princess gradually gained power. She investigated corruption, punished evil, established schools, opened girls' schools, appointed and dismissed officials, with rewards and punishments, handling everything with ease. The eldest princess's reputation among the common people grew higher and higher. Even the old emperor began to waver. After all, this dynasty had not been without female rulers before. A month later, the old emperor fell gravely ill, and I received a letter. After reading it, I tossed the letter into the furnace and said to Cao Cao, who was reading beside me, "Cho, would you like to go study in the capital?" The next day, in the same carriage, I took Cao Cao and headed toward the capital. I encountered Zhou Chuan again at a banquet in the eldest princess's residence. He looked at me with a hint of surprise. "Why are you here?" I had no desire to acknowledge him and prepared to leave. He grabbed me again. "You've finally calmed down, wanting to salvage our relationship." The eldest princess's personal maid stepped forward to block him. "Lord Zhou, Lady Wan is an honored guest, invited by the princess. Please conduct yourself with dignity." "What honored guest? She is just a country bumpkin who hasn't seen much of the world." "Wan Chuning, if you want to win me back, no need to beg the princess. The position of noble concubine in the Zhou residence is still reserved for you." Zhou Chuan's face wore a mocking smile. "Can we just pause and admire the sheer size of this man's ego? It must have its own gravitational pull." Zhou Chuan really thought Wan Chuning, a woman who is currently besties with the future empress and helping run the country, was dying to come back and be his side piece. "Sweetie." No, he completely underestimated her. He thought she was just a country bumpkin who sold wontons to support him, which, by the way, she did, and he should be grateful. Instead, she hits him with the ultimate reality check. "Is your family a gold mine?" I love this moment because it shows that men like Zhou Chuan never actually loved her. They loved having a servant. The moment she realized her own worth, his offer became an insult. Ladies, never let an ex convince you that his crumbs are a feast. You deserve the whole bakery. I finally couldn't bear it anymore and held back the maid. "Zhou Chuan, is your Zhou family some kind of gold mine or silver nest that I'd be rushing to become a concubine? And another thing, the divorce papers were personally handed to me by you back then." "What? Having regrets now?" My voice was loud, drawing quite a few sidelong glances from those around us. Having said that, I walked toward the front hall without looking back. Kids are probably all sensitive like that, after hearing our conversation. They figured out our relationship. I saw Zhao Zhao behind me glare hard at Zhou Chuan. It made Zhou Chuan so uncomfortable that he quickly coughed a couple times to cover his awkwardness, and didn't follow us anymore. I know these past 2 years haven't been easy for him either. Not long after I left, he married Princess Jingshu. After the marriage, Princess Jingshu became a completely different person, arrogant, domineering, doing whatever she pleased, turning the Zhou household upside down. Minghua was right. Princess Jingshu isn't a real princess. Her original name was Chen Jingshu, the daughter of a farming family. 3 years ago, the crown prince was in danger, and was rescued by a farmer. Chen Jingshu from the same village saw that the rescued person was dressed luxuriously and figured he must be from a wealthy family. So she lied and claimed she was the one who saved him. The crown prince, seeing her beauty, believed her. Later she returned to the capital with the crown prince, and to cover up her lie, she had the crown prince burn down the entire village. But the imperial family would never let someone of such lowly status become the crown princess, so she seduced the crown prince, trying to make it a done deal. Just as she was thrilled about being able to gain status through her child, the emperor suddenly issued an imperial edict. In recognition of her loyalty and courage, he specially granted her the title of Princess Jingshu. The imperial family was grateful that she saved the crown prince, but becoming crown princess? No way. No matter how much the crown prince liked her, he wouldn't gamble with his own future. Seeing her belly getting bigger and bigger, I had to quickly find someone to take the fall. After picking and choosing, she finally settled on Zhou Chuan, the newly appointed top scholar who had no power or influence but wanted to climb the social ladder. In less than half a year, she gave him a big healthy son. After the child was born, Chen Jingshu grew increasingly distant from Zhou Chuan. She set up a separate courtyard to live in and gave orders that without her permission, Zhou Chuan and Zhou Jingzi were not allowed to come within a step of it. I heard that courtyard had endless banquets and music night after night, and even the crown prince was often a guest of honor. But none of this had anything to do with me anymore. These were all Zhou Chuan's own choices. He wasn't completely unaware of Chen Jingshu's affairs. It is just that no one can resist trying when success is within easy reach. These past few years he'd been ostracized by colleagues, mocked by aristocratic families, and his teacher was deeply disappointed in him. He'd been idle at home for more than half a year now. When I entered the front hall, I discovered Zhou Jingzi had already arrived. He had grown much taller and plumper, being held by a maid who was feeding him date-paste pastries. Seeing me walk in, he froze for a moment, then broke free from the maid's embrace and stumbled toward me. "Mother, is that you, Mother? Did you come to pick me up, Mother? I miss you so much." I wavered for a moment. It is not that I never loved him. But the next moment he said, "Mother, would you be Father's concubine? That way I'd have the princess as my mother and you, my birth mother, by my side too. I want to eat the wontons you make." I sneered inwardly and gently pushed him away. "Child, you've got the wrong person. I am not your mother. I only have one daughter." Zhou Chuan stepped forward and pulled him back. "I already told you, your mother doesn't want you anymore, and you are still throwing yourself at people to be their son." I let out a long breath. Why would the person I loved turn out so rotten? Could it really be that I am such a poor judge of character? I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Mother loved me the most. Zhou Jingzi broke free from Zhou Chuan and tried to come hug me, but was blocked by Kaoche. "Young master, my mother said she doesn't know you. Why are you still pestering her? Don't you have your own mother?" Zhou Jingzi was indignant. He was the princess's son. What could he want that he couldn't have? He threw a tantrum, but Cao Cao subdued him with one move and pinned him to the ground. Young Master Zhou is so lacking in manners. Master Zhou should really discipline him. Suddenly a sharp female voice rang out, and everyone around hurriedly dropped to their knees. "We greet the elder princess." Zhou Chuan quickly pulled Zhou Jingzi down to kneel. This humble official has failed in discipline and startled the princess. Minghua paid him no more attention and reached out to help me up. "Sister Ning, you've come." Throughout the entire banquet, everyone was whispering, discussing who I was, where I came from, and what ability I had to make the princess treat me this way. Actually, very few people know that Princess Minghua and I are old acquaintances. 10 years ago, when the war in the southern border was critical, the princess was ordered to go there for support, but she was ambushed in the mountain forest near my hometown. She was shot in the shoulder, and I happened to run into her while gathering herbs in the mountains, saving her life. But the weather was hot, and the wound kept festering, so I boldly offered to scrape the bone to treat her wound. To my surprise, she laughed heartily and said, "What is so difficult about that? I am eager to get back to the battlefield and fight the enemy. So please treat me quickly, Sister Ning." The whole process lasted for 2 hours. I was so nervous I was drenched in sweat, and even the deputy general beside her couldn't bear to watch, yet she could endure it without making a sound. I came to admire her deeply, and she was also extremely grateful for me saving her life. During that time we talked about everything under the sun and had extensive discussions. She told me about court politics and military strategy, while I told her about survival skills and the suffering of common people. I never mentioned this to anyone, first because national military affairs are classified, and second, compared to her achievements, what I did was truly insignificant and not worth mentioning. I thought we would never meet again until Zhou Chuan brought me to the capital, and we reunited at a banquet. Minghua wanted to express her gratitude, but I declined. After all, Zhou Chuan had already taken an official position, and as his family member, I should be more restrained and observe propriety to avoid gossip. Later, when Zhou Chuan and I divorced, she wanted to keep me by her side and achieve great things together. But I knew that 2 years ago was her most difficult time. Not only could my identity not help her, it would be a burden to her. So I made an agreement with her. I'd go help her investigate the common people, and she'd consolidate her position in the capital. Now it is time for us to join forces. An envoy came from the Nanyan Kingdom, claiming to bring tribute, but really to probe the situation. Now that the old emperor is gravely ill, who will be the next ruler, and what will their attitude toward Nanyan be? All of this makes them anxious and uneasy. Over the past 10 years, they've been beaten into fear by Minghua. If Princess Minghua becomes the next ruler, they probably won't be able to march north for the rest of their lives. And the good-for-nothing crown prince is their only hope. That night, I stood at Minghua's side. I heard 3 large geese were circling above the crown prince's residence and wouldn't leave for a long time. It was just a beast tamer guiding them from a hidden spot. Someone's already shot them down. The 3 geese were stewed in 3 big pots and distributed to the poor people in the city. They all praised the princess for relieving suffering. Then the withered crabapple tree in front of the crown prince's residence bloomed again. They were all grafted. We've already thrown that swindling Taoist into prison. The onlookers all say the crown prince is obsessed with sorcery all day. How could he govern the country well? 2 days ago, noble consort Chen spoke to Father Emperor, saying the crown prince has extremely high prestige among the people and is a filial child, capable of shouldering great responsibility. This I hesitated, but the princess smiled. This time I'll make the arrangements. 5 days later, news came from the palace that when General Zhang's daughter, Zhang Wanyu, went to pay respects to the Empress Dowager, she discovered that a jade bracelet on Imperial concubine Chen's hand was exquisitely crafted, with material that didn't seem to belong to our dynasty. The Empress Dowager naturally became suspicious as well. Upon careful investigation, it was discovered that this jade bracelet came from the Southern Yan Kingdom's royal family. At such a critical moment, the emperor, following the principle of rather wrongly executing than letting go, had Imperial concubine Chen thrown into prison, waiting until the Southern Yan Kingdom's envoy left before deciding her fate. After 2 months of such turmoil, it was now the end of the year. At the palace banquet, the Southern Yan Kingdom's envoy deliberately made things difficult, saying that since General Zhang dominated the 4 seas, his daughter should be no slouch either, and could Miss Zhang perform a sword dance to liven things up. To show fairness, the envoy's daughter was willing to cooperate with Miss Zhang in the performance. The envoy's daughter came out in martial attire, carrying a sword clearly she had prepared in advance. Meanwhile, Zhang Wanyu was in a wide-sleeved, gorgeous dress, all dolled up beautifully, walking as delicately as a willow swaying in the wind. Southern Yan Kingdom was deliberately trying to embarrass her. Zhang Wanyu stood up and waved her hand weakly and delicately. "I can't do it. I am the weakest in martial skills among the Zhang family. Miss Zhang, no need to decline. It is just a sword performance. Don't worry, you won't get hurt." The more weak and delicate Zhang Wanyu appeared, the more happily he laughed. But the next moment he couldn't laugh anymore, because he saw that after getting the emperor's permission, Zhang Wanyu immediately changed her expression. She shot a glance at General Zhang across from her, and then a long sword flew from General Zhang's hand, which Zhang Wanyu caught accurately without error. Her figure was nimble. Sword light danced everywhere. The movement seemed to carry the sound of wind and thunder, flowing like clouds and water, imposing and magnificent. She forced the opponent into a position with no defense, retreating again and again. Finally, the sword in the envoy's daughter's hand was knocked away. Zhang Wanyu lightly flicked her sword tip, lifting up a cup of wine and sending it directly before the eyes of the Southern Yan envoy. The Southern Yan envoy was clearly startled, but quickly recovered, reluctantly taking down the wine cup and tossing it onto the table. The emperor laughed with satisfaction and pretended to console the Southern Yan envoy. "Lord Envoy, don't be angry. It is just a performance." Young General Zhang quickly apologized to Lord Envoy. Zhang Wanyu executed a beautiful sword flourish and sheathed her sword, respectfully giving the Southern Yan envoy a military salute. "I've given great offense." Only then did the Southern Yan envoy realize he'd been played. Actually, if he had a good memory, he should have been able to recognize that Zhang Wanyu had disguised herself as a man and gone to war in her father's place many times, and had also clashed with Southern Yan troops on multiple occasions. The Southern Yan envoy's entourage suffered a deep defeat. Minghua took the opportunity to stand up, bowed down to the emperor, and proposed letting Zhang Wanyu participate in next year's martial examination. Thanks to Minghua's efforts over these years, many schools had already begun accepting female students, but their parents sent them here just to gild them with a layer of gold, so that their families would have more capital to show off and more bargaining chips when choosing husbands. Even a young general like Zhang Wanyu, who had rendered outstanding service to the country, couldn't be granted a noble title because she was a woman, and all her achievements and merits were distributed to her brothers. When going to the battlefield, she could only dress as a man and was publicly claimed to be General Zhang's son. But if women could also participate in the military examination and imperial examination, that would open up a path for them to enter officialdom. They would be given high expectations and carefully cultivated from childhood, just like men even. If they weren't given high expectations, they would still strive for themselves, because they could see hope. They could go study, practice martial arts, do business, learn medicine, or choose to embroider, or even choose to travel far to the frontier. They could do everything they wanted to do, become the person they wanted to be, instead of just being confined to the inner chambers. What Minghua wanted to do was to change the old rules of the game. The emperor looked at the determined Minghua and didn't speak for a long while. He looked around at everyone, then suddenly chuckled softly. All right, everyone knew that Zhang Wanyu was just an opening. As long as the general's daughter could participate in the military examination, then other women could participate too. Then from now on, they could not only participate in the military examination, but also in the imperial examination. With enough wisdom and knowledge, they could run taverns, fabric shops, shipping companies, carriage services, escort agencies, banks, inns, and become coppersmiths, carpenters, coroners, gardeners, military generals. Perhaps the emperor wanted to stop it. Although there were precedents of women in power from previous dynasties, this world was still a man's world after all. But when he looked up, he knew the tide had already turned, and there was no going back. The Lunar New Year festivities had not yet concluded when the princelings finally came to their senses and launched a counterattack. Princess Zhou was already past her prime, yet still unmarried. There were rumors in the capital that she had loved someone she couldn't have, which turned her cold-hearted, ruthless, and cruel. As for who that loved one was, opinions varied. Some said it was a young general from a certain general's family. Some said it was a young master from a minister's household, and others even claimed it was a monk from Falong Temple. The rumors became more and more absurd, saying the princess couldn't bear her loneliness in the inner chambers, and invited male favorites into the princess's mansion daily, claiming all those advisors were her male favorites. I sat beside the princess, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. When men slander women, these are the only tricks they have. But looking up, I saw her holding a jade pendant, gazing at a painting hanging in the room. What they said wasn't entirely wrong. When my heart first stirred with love, I did have feelings for a young man. Her eyes were distant, as if reminiscing about the past, and after a long while she said leisurely, "It is just a pity that our ambitions were different." I followed her gaze and looked over. The person in the painting wore a blue robe, held a long whip, with an exquisite jade pendant hanging at the waist, an indescribably elegant and handsome bearing. The one who spread the rumors was arrested. When I went to the prison to interrogate them, I also saw an exquisite jade pendant. I anxiously looked at its owner, only to see a man with a face full of fleshy features, sporting a handlebar mustache, cursing non-stop. Since ancient times, men are superior and women inferior. Women should stay in the inner chambers to support their husbands and raise children. What kind of propriety is it to show your face in public all day, mixing with men all day long? Who knows what she is thinking? I am full of knowledge and talent. As long as she gives me an official position, I can fulfill my ambitions. But she refuses. Clearly, she is not wholeheartedly devoted to me, probably has her heart set on someone else already. Good thing we didn't end up together back then. Otherwise, even our Liu family's ancestral graves would be in jeopardy. He spoke with righteous indignation, as if he had a blood feud with Minghua. I couldn't believe it, no matter what. I couldn't imagine the person in the painting and this person shared the same skin. I told Minghua the results of the interrogation, as expected. Not one of them admitted to being instigated by anyone. However, I took this opportunity to conduct a thorough examination of their personal details, family backgrounds, and networks of connections. It was not difficult to discover that all of them maintained, to varying degrees, ties of mutual interest with members of the princeling party. As long as we grasp this point, we can follow the vine to find the melon and deal with these people quietly. Minghua remained silent the whole time, fiddling with the incense burner in her hands, lifting her eyes to look at the portrait before her. Then she ordered someone to take down the portrait and throw it into the furnace. Only after the portrait burned to ashes did she speak. They want to play dirty tricks, using a woman's most valued reputation as leverage. I am going to do the opposite, make a big spectacle of it, and bring this matter out into the open. I want to see who is the shameless one. The next day, tables and incense burners were set up in front of the Jingzhou prefecture office. On the tables was a thick stack of complaint papers, and behind the tables stood 10 maidservants in a row. I sat on the left side of the table, reaching out to take the tea handed to me by a maidservant, and took a light sip. Behind me, a crowd of onlookers kept gathering. I ordered the guards to keep the crowd at least 5 paces away. After a while, a maidservant glanced behind me, then leaned close to my ear and said softly, "My lord, there are enough people now." I nodded. "Beat the drum." The drum beats thundered through the sky. I saw Jingzhou Governor Qin Ji running towards us in a fluster. Just as he was about to reach us, I leisurely stood up and bowed to him. Greetings to Governor Qin. Qin Ji hastily gestured to support me. Oh my, this won't do. Registrar Wan is now a favored person before the eldest princess. Whatever you need, just send word. How dare I let you come in person? I chuckled softly. Sure enough, only when one has power will they be respected. Though my official rank is lower than his, working by a noble's side makes all the difference. Now that the emperor is gravely ill and the crown prince's power is waning, in this game between the princess and the crown prince, no one can guarantee who will be the final winner. Speaking of which, Qin Ji and I are old acquaintances. This man is also from an aristocratic family, though he is just of mediocre talent. He relied on his ancestors' protection to reach his current position, but only knows how to speak in bureaucratic platitudes and smooth things over. Because of Chen Jingshu's matter, he became quite friendly with Zhou Chuan for a while. He even urged Zhou Chuan to divorce me. Brother Zhou is still too kind-hearted. She is just a countrywoman, why not cast her aside? To men of aristocratic families, women are merely their possessions, who can be summoned at will and discarded at any time. But he would never have imagined that a discarded wife now stands in a position higher than his. Pulling back my memories, I looked at him meaningfully, until beads of sweat appeared on his forehead. Then I spoke leisurely. Lord Qin handles countless affairs daily. I dare not trouble Lord Qin, but what the princess has entrusted to me, I must naturally handle personally. Qin Ji glanced behind me and lowered his voice, saying, "There are too many prying eyes here. I've already had someone prepare tea and a heating stove in the inner hall. Please, chief clerk, come this way." I glanced at him, then turned to face the crowd and suddenly raised my voice. Our great Zhao has clear laws under bright heavens, with strict legal codes. What matter needs to be discussed in the inner hall? The onlookers were already curious about this spectacle, and hearing me say this, they couldn't help but start discussing amongst themselves. Who is this person daring to speak to the capital magistrate like that? You don't even know her. She is from the princess's manor. Sigh, I know. My aunt's nephew's classmate's cousin's mother-in-law's nephew's fellow townsman works at the princess's manor. He says this Lady Wan is highly trusted by the princess, and many of the manor's decrees come from her hands. Oh, no wonder she can control Qin Ji. Ha ha ha. So what is she here to do today? Not sure. But look how Qin Jie, who is usually so arrogant, seems pretty scared of her. Suddenly a loud voice rang out from the crowd. Right, what is there that we can't know about? Don't tell me it is some dirty, filthy business. Upon hearing this, the crowd started to boil. Qinji was already unpopular, who in the capital didn't hope for his downfall. Exactly, why hide it from us? Even the victims aren't afraid, so what is the capital magistrate's office afraid of? I turned back to look at Qinji. Beads of sweat as large as beans dripped from his forehead. I bowed to him and said solemnly, "This official has come today on behalf of Princess Minghua Zhao Chenyue to file a complaint against Lu Qi and others for spreading rumors and malicious slander. I ask that Magistrate Qin take on this case and uphold justice." Then I pointed to a woman behind the desk. "This is our litigation master, He Chunliu." He Chunliu stepped forward and also bowed, then handed the complaint document to Qinji. "This is our complaint, and the evidence we have collected. We ask that your honor examine it carefully." Qinji didn't even have time to wipe his sweat as he hurriedly took the complaint document. This matter caused a huge uproar in the capital. Some despised it, some were puzzled, some distorted the facts. After all, it concerned a woman's reputation and also the royal family's face. Since ancient times, reputation has been most important for women, and such scandalous affairs are things that absolutely cannot be discussed openly. But why is it that when men visit winehouses and pleasure quarters, it is called romantic and elegant, yet when a woman gets slightly close to another man, it is a heinous crime? Princess Minghua deliberately brought this matter into the open. She wanted men to see that those who maliciously slander are the ones committing heinous crimes, and wanted women across the land to see that when facing any injustice they can fight for what is right and make those who truly erred receive punishment. Not daring to offend either side, Qinji had been overwhelmed these past few days. He Chunliu went early every day to sit in front of the Jingzhou prefecture gates. She wouldn't go inside, and if anyone came to ask, she only had one line: "I ask that Magistrate Qin handle this case promptly so I can return and report back." Her voice was loud and clear, neither servile nor overbearing. With so many people watching, Qinji had no way to deal with her, and could only summon a few unimportant people for questioning. We weren't buying any of this. In the Great Hall, Minister Zhang of the Ministry of Revenue tearfully pleaded, "Your Majesty, you must give this old subject justice." I went to the princess's residence merely to discuss the Zhuozhou disaster relief matter with the princess. This was with your permission, but those people, alas, those people actually slandered me for having an affair with the princess. Woo 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 woo. At my age, to be slandered like this. Isn't this ruining my reputation in my twilight years? The old man in his 60s cried with snot and tears streaming down his face. He was a regent minister left by the late emperor to assist his majesty, having worked diligently and uncomplainingly his whole life. Even when he didn't kneel before the emperor, no one dared to say anything. Now that he had suffered such a great injustice, how could he not come crying to the emperor to complain? Minister Zhang, seeing the emperor's displeased expression, the crown prince quickly stepped forward to support him. "Minister Zhang, you are overthinking this. Those rumors didn't mention you by name. You are still the minister of Dazhao, who would dare slander you." Minister Zhang flicked his sleeve and snorted coldly. "Wouldn't dare to slander me. What do those rumors say? They say that men who visit the princess's residence all have affairs with the princess. I, Zhang, visit most frequently. If they're not talking about me, then who? This old man is already past 60, while Her Highness the Princess is only in her youthful years. If they're not slandering me, could they be slandering the princess?" As soon as these words came out, the entire hall was shocked. Slandering the princess meant slandering the imperial family. Showing disrespect to the imperial family was a crime punishable by beheading. In an instant, all the civil and military officials fell silent as cicadas in winter. The crown prince could no longer try to persuade him, and could only stand aside with his head lowered. The emperor, who had been holding his forehead the whole time, finally spoke. "All right, these are just marketplace rumors. Just deal with the people involved. Old Zhang, you are already so old. Why make such a fuss? Hurry and help Minister Zhang up." After granting Minister Zhang a seat, he finally noticed Minghua, who had been standing to the side without saying a word. "Yeah, this matter has wronged you too, but the law doesn't punish the masses. If we investigate further, it might cause public panic. How about this? I'll grant you that hot spring villa in the outskirts of the capital. You've worked hard these days, so go there to relax and unwind." Minghua lowered her head and sneered silently. When she raised it again, she had already put on a bright smile. "This son thanks Imperial Father." Shinji was demoted 3 ranks for incompetence in handling the matter. Those who participated in spreading the rumors were all punished. Those with official positions were stripped of their posts and investigated, and those without official positions were all thrown in prison. A month later, the villa in the outskirts was ready, and Minghua invited a group of nobles to host a flower viewing banquet. "Sister Ning, do you think this estate is beautiful?" Minghua and I stood on the highest pavilion, overlooking the entire estate. I gazed into the distance. Everything I saw was scenic. Pavilions and towers, ponds and corridors, flowers in full bloom. This is the most beautiful garden I've ever seen. There are countless imperial gardens in the outskirts of the capital, some more beautiful than this, some worse. "Do you know why Imperial Father chose this particular one to grant me?" I said nothing. Princess Minghua continued, "That is because this villa was my mother concubine's favorite villa when she was alive. Back then, Father Emperor would often bring her here to stay. He bestowed this place upon me to remind me that he and I, the Crown Prince and I, share blood ties and familial affection. In the past, he showered my mother concubine with favor, and by extension showed me great affection too. That is why I could study together with the princes and ride horses with them. But I know his favor toward my mother concubine was no different from his affection for a little bird or a little cat. It was the contempt of someone in a superior position toward an inferior. Everything you have depends on my charity. When I am happy, I'll give you some food. When I am not, I can discard you at will. No matter how I treat you, you must be grateful." The more Minghua spoke, the more agitated she became. I had also heard some things about her mother concubine. Consort Li Shi was a wonderful woman, simple-minded, kind, and amiable. The emperor was very fond of her, but later, because she accidentally offended the dragon heir in the empress's belly, she was thrown into the cold palace and died of depression. Before her death, she begged the emperor to take good care of their only daughter. Looking at the dim countenance of his former love, the emperor seemed unable to bear it and immediately ordered that Consort Li's daughter be granted the title of Princess Minghua. This was an exceptional honor. This bestowal secured Minghua's wealth and status for life, but she wanted more. The flower viewing banquet was held quite lively, with imperial relatives, nobles from the capital. Anyone with even a bit of standing in the capital had come. I was leading a few maidservants to handle affairs and greet guests, when I turned around and saw a beauty walking over from afar. She was dressed in bright and splendid clothes, had a graceful figure, and her hair was adorned with a complete set of colorful gemstone ornaments. The beauty was quite beautiful, attracting many nobles to look at her, but it would have been even better if she just didn't open her mouth. As she walked past me, she let out a cold snort. "I heard from Zhou Chuan that you are a servant in the princess's residence." I didn't believe it at first, but didn't expect it to actually be true. "MPH, didn't you have a lot of backbone, refusing even to be a noble concubine? Yet now you've run off to be someone's maid." I smiled and turned to look at her. "Thank you for your concern, Princess Jingshu and the prince consort. Lord Zhou and I became acquainted when we were nobodies. Even though we've been divorced for many years, he still cares so much about this old friend's recent situation. It truly makes this humble one feel overwhelmed by such favor." Everyone in the capital knew about her sordid affairs with Zhou Chuan, so now hearing my words, the crowd couldn't help but snicker. She awkwardly took her seat. "Hemph, Miss Wan really has a sharp tongue. Zhou Chuan is now a prince consort, high and mighty, an imperial relative. At most he has feelings of fellow townsmen toward you, and only said a few extra words to you out of pity." She anxiously tried to explain, but the people around her only laughed even harder. The princess is right. Lord Zhou and I are naturally fellow townsmen, while you two are a match made in heaven. Someone quickly pour wine for the princess." After saying that, I turned and left. From the corner of my eye, I could see Chen Jingshu fuming with anger, yet unable to make a scene. She didn't like Zhou Chuan, but she didn't want to lose either. Kao ran over to find me. The moment she saw Chen Jingshu, the smile in her eyes slowly faded, replaced by overwhelming hatred. Chen Jingshu, upon seeing Ko, only showed some confusion. She probably felt the girl before her looked somewhat familiar, but couldn't quite place where she'd seen her. She would never imagine that the withered, skinny girl from back then had now been nourished by me into someone fair-skinned and lovely. Seeing her day and night sworn enemy again, Cha-Cha wished she could tear her apart alive. Back then, it was clearly her father who saved the crown prince, yet the credit was claimed by their neighbor Chen Jingshu. Chen Jingshu said that once she reached the capital, she would truthfully report to the emperor and have him reward them. But unexpectedly, what came was not a reward, but a squad of guards dressed in night clothes. That night, the entire village was filled with cries and screams, flames reaching the sky. She saw with her own eyes her father's head cut off, her mother severely burned while protecting her. Now, with her enemy right before her eyes, how could she not hate? I covered her eyes, held her in my arms, and whispered softly in her ear, "Cho, it is not time yet." The emperor's health was deteriorating day by day, and he began to believe in superstitions about ghosts and gods. Today is the 15th. Zhang Guifei accompanied him to Huguo Temple to offer incense. The oracle interpretation read, "The purple star descends, bringing great fortune to the nation." But who is this purple star? The monks at Huguo Temple said this purple star has only risen to prominence in the past 2 years. Then it can't be the crown prince. After all, the crown prince was established as crown prince from birth. The emperor was pondering this in his mind when Zhang Guifei casually remarked, "I heard the eldest princess is hosting a flower viewing banquet today. The flowers are in full bloom at the suburban villa, surely an auspicious omen." The eldest princess, the emperor thought briefly, then smiled at Zhang Guifei. "Then let's go join in the festivities." The emperor instructed to keep it low-key, only sending someone to notify Princess Minghua. I accompanied Minghua to receive the emperor, and our group marched in grand procession toward the inner courtyard. While passing by a small courtyard, we discovered the crown prince's personal guards standing watch there, with coquettish female voices occasionally drifting out from inside. The emperor was mildly furious. In broad daylight, he is this desperate. Tell him to get his ass out here. I gave a look, having the princess's manor guards go summon him. The crown prince's personal guards, seeing the emperor and the eldest princess, dared not speak or obstruct, only knelt on the ground. The guard knocked on the door. The crown prince, having his fun interrupted, said impatiently, "Who is knocking? Didn't I tell you to guard properly?" "Guard, your highness, please come out." "Can't you see I am busy? Fuck off, guard." "Your highness, please come out." The guard doesn't explain, only repeats that phrase, and the crown prince is enraged. "Fuck off, even if Father Emperor drop dead. Don't come disturbing me." A woman inside the room chuckles softly. "Your highness, watch your words. That is your Father Emperor. What, does Beauty want to be my Father Emperor's concubine? He is old. This empire will be mine sooner or later. Only I can satisfy you." The woman's voice is seductive. "Then I'll wait for your highness to make me empress." The obscene sounds from inside the room ring out again. Every single word reaches the emperor's ears. This room was specially selected by me for the two of them. The wall structural design ensures that sounds inside are amplified and carried outside to the courtyard. The emperor, furious to the extreme, draws the sword from a nearby guard and charges to the door, then kicks it open with one foot. Inside, the crown prince and Chen Jingshu are lying together in disheveled clothing. "Bastard who let you in." The crown prince was about to erupt in anger, but upon looking up at who came, he scrambles off the bed in panic. Father Emperor, Father Emperor, traitor, traitor, traitor!" The emperor shouts 3 times, and just as the sword in his hand is about to strike the crown prince, he faints. The emperor was unconscious for 3 days, and the crown prince and Chen Jingshu knelt outside Kaohei Hall for 3 days. Everyone knows the emperor is stalling for time. After all, that was his successor whom he placed high hopes on and personally raised. As long as someone speaks up to plead for mercy, he can take the opportunity to forgive the crown prince. But 3 days passed, and not a single civil or military official in the entire court spoke up. 3 days later, the emperor finally regained consciousness. Looking at Minghua attending to him at his bedside, he seemed to have accepted his fate. That very day, he issued an imperial edict to abolish the crown prince's position, demoting him to Prince of Qizhou, and ordering him to leave for his fief immediately, forbidden to return to the capital without a decree. As for Chen Jingshu, she was stripped of her princess title and demoted to commoner status. At the same time, 10 people wearing bamboo hats brought written complaints and beat the Denwen drum. They claimed to be survivors of Lingyan village, and they were accusing Chen Jingshu of distorting the truth and treating human lives as worthless. Chen Jingshu was thrown into prison, awaiting execution after autumn once the truth was investigated. On the day she was imprisoned, she received divorce papers from Zhou Chuan. Zhou Chuan listed out Chen Jingshu's affairs with men without any reservation, his words fierce and strongly condemning, as if all his misfortunes over the years were caused by Chen Jingshu alone. I heard that Chen Jingshu went mad the moment she received the divorce papers. At night, Cao Cao knelt at my feet. "Thank you, mother, for avenging Cao Cao." When I adopted Cao Cao, I already knew that the fire at Lingyan village was set by Chen Jingshu, because I was originally sent as the princess's substitute to rescue them. But I arrived too late, working day and night without rest and exhausting all my family wealth. I only managed to save 10 people. From their conversation, I learned that Cao Cao's parents were the crown prince's true saviors. The task Minghua and I were about to undertake was extremely dangerous. I planned to keep it from Cao Cao, so I gave her a new name, hoping she could temporarily let go of her hatred and grow up happily. It wasn't until she met Chen Jingshu that she learned of our plan and realized that the one we were going after was precisely her enemy. I held her in my arms, stroking her hair. "It is all in the past now. It is all in the past." The emperor ultimately couldn't make it through that winter. Before his death, he issued an edict appointing Princess Minghua as crown prince to succeed the throne. In the first year of Mingxi, Minghua ascended the throne, named imperial concubine Zhang as empress dowager, and began sweeping reforms. In the 5th year of Mingxi, the court welcomed its first batch of women participating in the imperial examinations, and I was the chief examiner for that session. I watched them, some delicate and lovely, some steady and dignified, others heroic and dashing. But without exception, they all appeared prepared and confident, filling my heart with deep emotion. "Let me through, that is my mother," on the viewing platform. The crowd stirred, and through the throng, I saw that person was actually Zhou Jingzi. 5 years ago, Chen Jingshu was beheaded, Zhou Chuan was demoted, and Zhou Jingzi had also left for another place with him. He pushed his way in front of me. "Mother, it is Jingzi. It has been 5 years. Have you been well?" As he spoke, he squeezed out 2 tears. He was now a slightly chubby youth. You could tell his father didn't really look after him. I said coldly, "Young Master Zhou, I am no longer your mother. Please address me as Lord Wan." But he grinned shamelessly. I get it. It is called avoiding suspicion. I didn't want to deal with him and turned to leave, but he grabbed me and said in a lowered voice, "Mother, could you tell your subordinates to stop checking on me and let me through?" I followed Zhou Jingzi's gaze and saw his waist was bulging. He must have smuggled some contraband hemp. He really hasn't changed since childhood. He never liked studying, and I had racked my brains over this. In the end, it all couldn't withstand Zhou Chuan's one sentence. He is the son of the Vice Minister of Revenue. Does he really need to rely on studying to get ahead? I stepped back, distancing myself 2 steps from him. This official has been entrusted with office by His Majesty, and naturally must be fair and just, not betraying the Emperor's grace. "Men, search this young master," the officers, having received the order, searched extra thoroughly. Zhou Jingzi, being held in place, couldn't help but curse. "You are actually going through with this. Wan Chuning, I am your only son. When you are old, won't you still need to count on me to support you? Woman studying is just for show. Do you really expect them to achieve any scholarly merit? Mother, only I can earn you the phoenix coronet and bridal veil. Wan Chuning, you have such a cruel heart. No wonder my father divorced you. Everyone, come and see. This woman is unchaste. She ruined her husband, and now she is trying to ruin her own son." And boom. The satisfaction I felt when Cha Chao kicked that whining, entitled, man-child to the ground. Immeasurable. Unmatched. Chef's kiss forward 5 years. Wan Chuning is the chief examiner, a huge career glow-up, and her biological son shows up trying to cheat and gaslight her into passing him. He pulls the "I am your only son, who will take care of you when you are old" card. Classic manipulation. But Wan Chuning stood on business. She didn't waver. She chose integrity over biology, and Kao defending her mother. That is the energy we need. It proves that raising a child is about values, not just DNA. Zhou Jingzi thought he could bully his way back into privilege, but he found out the hard way that in his mother's new world, you actually have to work for your success. He let out a loud cry, the rest of his words left unspoken, because he was kicked to the ground by Cao Chao. She has been clinging to Zhang Wanyu lately. Her martial arts skills have improved considerably. I looked at the onlooking examinees, all of them silent, especially the female examinees. They silently watched all this, their hearts filled with anger, grievance, and injustice, tears welling up in their eyes. Yet they held back without outburst, because they knew today was not the time to make a scene. They must strictly follow the rules. Any slight transgression could be infinitely magnified, then labeled with titles like women being naturally rule-breaking, unfit for important positions, emotional, and so on. Cao Chao's kick left Zhou Jingzi unable to get up for quite a while, which at least helped the surrounding women vent their anger. Zhou Jingzi, you don't work hard yourself. You want to cheat your way through. I don't agree. So you throw dirt on me, truly no different from that scumbag father of yours. My affairs with Zhou Chuan are known throughout the world. It is your own doing. It is you who wronged me. I don't need you to support me in old age, nor do I need anyone to earn me a bridal crown and veil. Don't you think men are naturally superior to women? I am giving you a chance. Summon and search him thoroughly and let this young master enter the examination hall. Zhou Jingzi, take the exam properly. Don't say I didn't give you a chance. If your name appears on the list, I'll acknowledge you as my son. If your name doesn't appear on the list, then get the hell out of the capital and never come back. Watching Zhou Jingzi's cursing and swearing figure from behind, I still shed tears, for the soft-heartedness at this moment, for the unwillingness of so many years of dedication. Cao blocked in front of me. Mother, you did nothing wrong. That night I knelt before the emperor and reported this matter truthfully. Minghua sighed and helped me up. The world always looks down on women. We seek fairness. In the early stages there will always be some unavoidable compromises. You don't need to blame yourself too much for letting Zhou Jingzi enter the examination hall. I believe the women of this land will understand your pains. You are fighting for their fairness, and they will follow in your footsteps and work even harder. 3 months later, the results were announced, and 1/4 of the top candidates were women. Very good, very good. This is enough to show the world that women are no worse than men when it comes to studying and taking examinations. Women now have one more path forward. Zhou Jingzi's name was not on the list, so he knelt at the gates of the Wan estate again, crying and making a scene. Mother, please look at your son, Zer. Zer knows he was wrong. You can't disown me. I am your biological son, my dad said. If you don't acknowledge me, he won't want me either. I'll be a child without a home. Woo, mother, my dad knows he was wrong too. Please give him one more chance. A day as husband and wife means 100 days of affection. Mother Cao was originally practicing calligraphy, but being disturbed beyond tolerance, grabbed a blade to go to the gate and hack someone. I unhurriedly turned the pages of my book. Cao, what did your master teach you? Hearing my words, Zhaosha immediately stopped and said reluctantly, learning martial arts is to protect the country and help the weak against the strong, not to compete with idiots. I nodded. Continue practicing your calligraphy, but no need to bother with him, someone will deal with it. Half a sheikhan later, many onlookers gathered in front of the Wan residence. Who is this, crying and wailing in front of Lord Wan's gate? Isn't this Lord Wan's son? I saw him at the Zhou residence before. Ayu, how cruel-hearted this mother is, just letting the child cry at the gate. Right, and this is her own flesh and blood. Emph, what flesh and blood? His father abandoned his first wife to marry that so-called Princess Jingshu back then, and it was he who instigated it. What he instigated his father to divorce his mother. That day I took the imperial examination with him. He tried to cheat, and when Lord Wan found out, he started cursing his own mother. What kind of decent person could someone like that be? This completely disregards human ethics. Bah, how does someone like that have the face to show up at Lord Wan's gate? The maidservant relayed everything happening at the gate. We've already sent people to put young Master Zhou on a carriage back to his hometown. I calmly took a sip of tea and looked up to see Zhaojia, who was practicing calligraphy, smiling. I shook my head. This child still lacks self-discipline. 5 more years passed. Da Zhao had made ample preparations, and the emperor issued an order appointing Zhang Wanyu as commander-in-chief to launch a campaign against Nanyan. Zhao Shao often wrote to me, saying they had won another victory, saying how mighty her master was, saying she had received praise from the commander again, saying that Nanyan had sent an envoy to sue for peace. This envoy was the very same one who had made things difficult for Zhang Wanyu at the palace banquet years ago. When he saw Zhang Wanyu, he was quite surprised, then laughed at himself. This old man was truly blind back then. The envoy said that as long as Dazhao withdrew its troops, they were willing to offer beautiful women and jewels. Zhang Wanyu refused. Women are not commodities. How can they be sent back and forth like objects? Dazhao only requires that Nanyan submit as a vassal, be incorporated into Dazhao, accept Dazhao's governance, and pay annual tribute. On the day the army returned in triumph, I pushed through the crowds and saw Zhao Cao sitting on a tall horse. She had been promoted to deputy general by Zhang Wanyu, and looked extremely proud. The sounds of celebration roared in my mind. I saw women becoming officials and generals being gradually accepted. I saw women being able to fight and compete for their own goals. I saw women being able to argue forcefully when facing injustice. I saw them having ambition, ideals, and pursuits. How wonderful. Oh my dears, wasn't that a ride? What I absolutely adore about Wan Chuning's story is that it isn't just a revenge story, it is a revolution. Usually, in these novels, the woman gets revenge by marrying a higher-ranking prince and looking pretty. But Wan Chuning, she said, no thanks. She went back to her roots, built a school for girls, teamed up with a powerful female leader, and literally changed the laws so women could have careers, dignity, and power. She turned her pain into policy. She realized that her happy ending wasn't about getting the husband back, or even getting the son back. It was about finding her purpose and raising a daughter, Ko, who shared her values. The contrast between her biological son, weak, entitled, manipulative, and her adopted daughter, brave, loyal, general of the army, is such a powerful reminder that family is chosen. Zhou Chuan and Zhou Jingzi spent their lives chasing shortcuts, marrying up, cheating on exams, riding coattails. Wan Tuning spent her life working hard, selling wontons, saving lives, studying in the end. The shortcuts led to a dead end, and the hard work led to history. So, to all my ladies starting over in their 40s, 50s, or beyond, you are never too old or too late. If Wan Kuning can go from a discarded wife to the chief examiner of the empire, you can definitely start that business. Take that trip, or dump that dead weight. Let's chat in the comments. The boy-mom dilemma. Be honest, ladies. If your son came back crying after 5 years like Zhou Jingzi, would you have folded and helped him? Or would you have stood your ground like Wan Kuning? The X Factor. Have you ever had an ex try to spin the block when they saw you doing well? Just like Zhou Chuan offering the concubine position. What was your reaction? Chosen family. Let's show some love to the chaos in our lives. Who is someone in your life that you are not related to by blood, but who has your back more than anyone else? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss a story. Keep your standards high and your tea hot. Love you all. Mwah.